Hello, and welcome to the Dogfight, a podcast dedicated to the London Spitfire and Overwatch League. Fasten your seatbelts and observe the no smoking sign because today we'll be discussing London's win over the San Francisco Shock and the Seoul Dynasty, as well as their upcoming matches for the final week of Stage 2 and their, expectations for the Stage 2 playoffs. It's just me again, Havokpus, your friend. Everyone else is busy again. We're still trying to find a constant member that can join me all the time, so we don't have these awkward episodes. But I'm willing to give it another shot. So, for match results, the London Spitfire played against the San Francisco Shock and the Seoul Dynasty. Against San Francisco Shock, they went 3-1, and against Seoul Dynasty, they went 4-0. So starting with the Shock, I think the team looked relatively good. There were only a few hiccups, I think mainly just in that, definitely it feels like they didn't have enough, explosiveness, I guess, with Birdring not there. Hurrig played the whole time. I think it was Gesture, Wuhyal, Bedosin, Nuss, Prophet, and Hurrig. In the first half, they looked really good. On first map, which I believe was Hanamura? No. The other one, which I'm drawing a blank at. But on the Assault map, they looked really good. Volskaya, that's what it was. Volskaya. On Volskaya, they had kind of a tricky time, but they were ultimately able to have a good defense. And then on Nepal, they looked pretty good. Hurrig was on Soldier, I believe, for most of it. And he was able to just do what Soldier does, which is just kind of stand away from everyone and just shoot at them. But then halftime came in and the team really struggled with the payload-oriented maps. On Hollywood, they really struggled to play effectively. They couldn't get the point and capture the payload. First of all, I think Hurrig actually had 0 kills on Hollywood attack, which is something that you really don't want to see from a DPS. And then, since they weren't able to capture the point, San Francisco Shock could kind of sweep in and then beat us on that map. So we lost Hollywood, but then we were able to pick it up on the full payload map on Route 66, and we looked a little better there, but it was still somewhat close. And I think, against these lesser teams, I think London, does something where it's like, well, our players are strong enough on their own, we don't really need to invest as much time into prep time and such. We don't need to have our players necessarily kill themselves over preparing for the San Francisco Shock of all teams. So you can do something like this where you can put in, some B squad players, just have them kind of walk on out and play. But I think ultimately that game was a struggle mostly because of Hurrig. Not to 100% blame him or anything or say that he's bad, but I think that Hurrig is just not as explosive as Birdring, and he's also maybe not as versatile. I think, we saw him mainly on the Widow. That was his go-to pick. He also he did move around some. He did pick the McCree. He did play some Pharah some. He did play Soldier some. But I don't know. I think it's mostly just that he is not as explosive, and therefore he is not as impactful. And he definitely struggled some that game. 0 kills on Hollywood attack is not good. But they still won, which is great. And then moving on to the Seoul Dynasty match, which is the real, big story of the week. The GC Busan roster is now 14-0 against the Lunatic High rivals. Blech. And it's actually, it's actually kind of insane, right? You have these two teams, and GC Busan is 14-0 against them. You know, that's an insane record, I think, just from how Overwatch works. And the team came to play. They definitely took the ankle weights off. They were like, all right, it's time to move it. It's time to show that we are the best. And they looked really crisp. They looked really good. And I think one of the things that really benefited them was just their ability to really stall and draw out, pushes. Like on Hanamura, Seoul is attacking, and on their first attack defense phase, Seoul only had 27 seconds, and London had like maybe 6 minutes or so. And then you had stuff like on King's Row and on Watchpoint, where they're so close. They have like just like a millimeter to go, and they get all 3 points for the, pushing the payload or whatever. And they just can't do it, and they can't get all the way. And I think that's so crazy that London was able to just delay so much that Seoul ended up losing because they couldn't push it just that one little millimeter. And I think that it comes down to just the great coordination that they showed front to back. Jester and Wuhyal were doing a really good job of moving around. Birdring and Prophet, insane plays, insane damage coming from them. And then Bdosin and Nuss keeping everyone healthy and keeping everyone alive. So it was a really nice showing from them. And I saw some comments, and I think I have to agree with these comments, that London definitely was just able to read Seoul's game plan. Whenever Seoul would obviously dive, they would just go, okay, wait for them to dive, we'll dive their supports, we'll kill their supports, we'll kill everyone else, it'll be easy. And that's essentially what they did. They just countered whatever Seoul did so easily. It was kind of funny. And that's, I can't really say much just because that would be me probably overpraising the London Spitfire to an extent. Oh, another point that I did want to bring up before I guess I'd kind of move it on. But Prophet, I think, really has stood out to me. Not just in this game, but, as a whole, he's been playing exceptionally great. Not only in mechanical skill, but also just showing his diversity and willingness to play on a number of heroes. He's taking the Genji role. He's taking Tracer. He's taking Junkrat. I think he even said he's like learning Pharah, but he also plays Reaper when the team needs Reaper. He plays, Zarya. And I think maybe even sometimes he plays Roadhog. I'm not sure about that one, but he plays like just this crazy variety of heroes at such a high level, and I think it's really great that he's able to play so exceptionally well, especially on these heroes like Zarya, who takes like forever for her ult to charge. I think in like one fight, Prophet went from like 0 to 90% with Zarya, just like running around and shooting everything. It's just crazy to see him specifically just playing so well. And I think him coupled with Birdring really unlocks something in the London Spitfire. And when you look at like Hureg versus Birdring, I think it's clear who the better DPS is, at least for right now. I think that Hureg can definitely improve. I think that maybe even with a second DPS partner, who isn't Prophet, maybe put him in and then see how he does with someone else. Maybe Hureg can do well with Birdring. Who knows? Though that might be difficult since Birdring and Hureg have like really similar playstyles. They're both kind of the hit scan players, while Prophet is more of the flanking specialist. But who knows? I would certainly like to see Hureg improve. I think that he definitely can come back and avenge his kind of poor showing on San Francisco. But they played really well this weekend. The nice 2-0. And I guess that transitions us into the match preview, which is the Shanghai Dragons and the Dallas Fuel. And I gotta be honest, you guys, this is gonna be a slam dunk. This is literally the freest weekend London could have. You have the Shanghai Dragons on March 23rd at 11 p.m. Eastern, and the Dallas Fuel Saturday, March 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern. So some really unfortunate times, but I think when you're considering who you're playing up against, I don't think it should be that big of a deal. You have Shanghai Dragons, who the roster is kind of a mess. You have people that are just clearly not strong enough to compete with a lot of the other teams in the league, they're really struggling to just, get a win. They've certainly improved from when they first came into the Overwatch League, and I'm really, I'm actively cheering for them to actually just get like a match win. So certainly not against us, but just in general. But until their new additions come in and can play for them, they're still going to be at this really bad spot, and they're just struggling. And then against Dallas Fuel, it's going to be again really difficult. Their team is in tatters. Everything is just a mess with them. You have Taimu playing Winston for whatever reason, even though he's a DPS. You have, you're playing Rascal when you should be playing like other people. You're putting AKM on the Genji when he's clearly just a soldier player, and he can't really play the Genji. It's, so it's just up against two teams that are clearly a mess and are clearly just, not having a good time right now. So I think this should be a pretty easy 4-0 for both. They could maybe lose individual maps just because, playing the B team who isn't that strong, maybe they're just, not going to take the time to really prep for that, since they'll probably be in the Stage 2 playoffs and they have to play against other higher end teams and they want to spend their time preparing for those. They may drop a map to that, but other than that, I think it's okay. I think they'll do fine. They may end up dropping a map, but I don't see it as something too close. Considering the shape that these two teams are in, it shouldn't be that difficult. And I think it should just be a slam dunk. There's nothing really more to talk about, sadly. I mean, I would love it if, the Shanghai Dragons and the Dallas Fuel were teams to really talk about, but at this stage and at the state that they're both in, there's not really much to talk about, at least not until Stage 3, when, Fuel gets OGE and Shanghai gets Gaguri and Ado and, all these other players. But moving on to the Stage 2 playoffs, which will also be this weekend, I believe this Sunday. The top three, as of now, if the standings don't change, it will be Heroic XL, London, and then Los Angeles Gladiators. So, and that's if nothing changes. So I think it should be a pretty great playoffs. LA Gladiators has looked like 10 times better with Fisher in the lineup. I think his ability to really make space for his team is fantastic. He's really unlocked, Surefour and Hydration and Asher, and just their ability to do damage. And then you have Bishu, who I think, everyone on this LA Gladiators team I think just looks like 10 times better because of Fisher. And it's really great to see, Shaz and Big Goose and Bishu and everybody, before they were already good players, but now they look like really great players because they have this main tank that can just make so much space and be able to, communicate and shot call and do all this really great stuff that Fisher's able to do. Of course you have London, a extremely talented team. Their A squad I think is one of the best in the league. Gesture is a great main tank. Fury and Wuhall, I'm always torn on who I like more. I personally like Fury. I kind of like his playstyle a bit more, but Wuhall has definitely shown, especially in the Seoul match, he's definitely shown that, he can play just as well as Fury. So I think Fury and Wuhall's, I guess it's more of what playstyle do you want to run. Prophet Birdring, I think, honestly, just the best DPS duo in the league. I can't think of any few instances of a duo that's better. Maybe someone from the NYXL. But outside of that, it's honestly no one. And I think Vidocin is at least top 3 Zenyatta's. I'm not sure if you would call him the best simply because there's apparently just a lot of different Zenyatta playstyles that you can go for. And, you can be really aggressive like Vidocin, you can be really supportive, you can be more defensive. It's a really interesting spectrum to see how one plays Zenyatta. So I think Vidocin's definitely top 3. I'm not sure if he's number one, just based on who you ask and how they prefer in terms of playstyles. And then you have New York Excel, the the number one team in the standings, I believe. They have some of the best players. They have Sabiolbi, who has really, just found a place in my heart, because he has that picture of his wife on stage, you guys. How great is that? He seems like just a charming dude. I just have to get behind him 100%. You have Big Boss Pine, everyone loves Pine, and everyone else on that team is just great. Everyone's super strong. The roster has really just it just looks super strong and super talented. I can't find anything really bad to say about NYXL. So against these three teams, it'll be really interesting to see who comes out on top. And I think from London's point of view, they can't sleep on either. They have to prepare for London and they have to prepare for New York. I think the question will be exactly how you balance preparing for both. Because what we learned from the LA Gladiators match the first time around, I think they underestimated them, because they weren't sure how impactful Fisher was going to be, and I think they also felt going into it, well, Fisher's great, but our other 5 players are way better than theirs. And I think they didn't expect to see how much of an impact Fisher made. So I think they're going to have to compensate for how good the team is with Fisher now. Definitely don't play your B squad. As good as Closer and Havokpus are, I think Nuss and Bedosin just have way better synergy with Gesture, Fury / Wuhyal, Birdring, and Prophet. I think they just play a lot better together than with Closer and Havokpus. So play Bedosin and Nuss, play the A squad, and I think you'll be okay. And then for New York, I mean, we've beaten them 2 times before, but they've been extremely close matches. And they're such a difficult opponent because they have such talented members front to back. There's not one person that I think is, not deserving to be on NYXL or is a clear weakness. I think that everyone on it is really good, and it'll be difficult. I mean, Stage 1 championships were difficult. The first match of the Stage 2, or I guess technically second match, but Week 1 of Stage 2 when we had to play them again, that was also super difficult. And I think the playoffs will once again come down to London and New York, and it will probably go off of who is more prepared. If London can get that extra bit of preparation, if they can push it just like 2% more, 5% more, I think London can win, and they can definitely beat NYXL. Maybe not easily, but at least more convincing and less, not as close as the previous matches were, where they were really down to the wire. And I think that's how it should be. It should be London and New York just battling it out. We've clearly established that London is better than Seoul. And Seoul has honestly kind of struggled, considering how Fleta has kind of fallen off. The team's really fallen off, and I'm not sure why. It's very strange. Maybe it's because I know other players have said that Seoul is very predictable and sort of one-dimensional. And maybe that's it. Who knows? But, it's just the best of the best. New York, London, head-to-head. Great. But, yeah, I think it'll come down to New York and London. Games like that I can't really call. I don't know, if it's London 3-2 or New York 3-2. It's too difficult because I think they're just on another level, especially when they are playing at their best. But it'll be super exciting if London can defeat Gladiators and then move on to the Stage 2 finals. But we'll have to see, and I will definitely keep everyone informed. But before we go, I want to also, as I just remembered, do a quick checkup on the British Hurricanes. They actually played today, and it was actually a super exciting match. They played against the Angry Titans, and the team, both teams actually played really well. It was a really close match. They went into a full 5 maps, and British Hurricanes were able to ease it out on Oasis, I think. And it was just an exciting match. Angry Titans were playing really well. They were using Pharah really effectively. And I think sometimes they would try to use like a triple DPS strat, which was really interesting. But yeah, they were just using Pharah really effectively. Their DPS looked super good. There were some weird points where we didn't really use Moira, when I felt like maybe running a Moira might have been more effective. Because Angry Titans used Moira a lot, and I think those times where they ran Moira were the maps that they won, and they kind of pushed us out a little bit more. But it was a really exciting game. The boys pulled it off, and they were able to clinch out a 3-2 win. And I think that's important just in that you have to show that you can play against the top teams. If you can play and beat the top teams, you're good. I'm not sure who they play next week, but I think their only other challenger really is Gigante. Hold on, let me see real quick if I can figure out who they play next. Let's see. Okay, they play Orglis in Hungary. I haven't seen too much of Orglis in Hungary, but well, they beat Singularity, but then again we beat Singularity, and then they lost to Gigante. So okay. Unsure where they measure up and everything, but it should be fun. I've really been enjoying watching the British Hurricane. Kib and Craggy are just really good DPSs to watch, and they have some other good players too. So yeah, it's just been really fun. But I think that's about it for me. I'm sorry it's just me again today. We're still working on trying to find someone that can be sort of like a permanent co-host, so, if anything, it will be me plus someone else. But until we do that, sometimes we might have these solo episodes, and I apologize for that. I'm sorry that it's short. I'm sorry that it's just me, being a tongue-tied mess. It's hard to draw out points sometimes when it's just me. I can't bounce things off of other people, but hey, you get a nice short little chat with me. But anyway, please put your tray tables up and return to your seats to their full upright positions, because we're coming in for a landing. Thank you for listening to our fine podcast, and we hope to see you in the skies real soon, especially with other people. So thank you for listening. Sorry again. Hope you enjoyed it enough, and I'll see you later.